prophet returned. Reincarnation. All you got to do is start bringing the Greensboro so Marcus Mosiah's garbage. He's got relatives living. I remember at the National Conference on Black Power in Newark, New Jersey. And if they see you, man, they'll be coming to Greensboro to put up the shrine here, man. All you got to do is say, Marcus Mosiah's garbage lives. Come to Greensboro on the corner of... See? There it is, right there. Up, ye mighty people. You can't accomplish
Black
what you
Star
will.
Liner.
Yes.
Yes, right.
I need to come take a look.
Enjoy.
I'm so excited about these both you brothers, man. You went to school with me at Dudley High School.
Get you in there a little
right
bit.
behind me in Warnersville, on Cedar Street. That's one of the Donnell brothers. Yeah.
Talent.
They were called Sweet Blacks.
Talent.
Well, he is a sweet black, so there's a good spirit up in this experience.
Rich what was your name?
My name was Oliver.
Going through the meditations, and then the deity appears on the pages.
Yeah, because see what I always thought about the part about the reproduction organs in this society. They cover it, and what they have done is they have prostituted the whole concept of sex in the natural order, like they make the baby dolls and out the sexual organs on them. And this is all part of our being. Whoever heard of human beings don't have a reproductive organ? The animals do.
That's true.
And so the children could be taught that this is something, this is part of their body, there's nothing to be ashamed of.
Yes.
I know I drew a picture one time. Oh, I noticed in a lot of the books on SARS, right?
Yes.
They would cut off his penis in the book.
Yes.
While it's bought. They have him laying down, you have his phallic in his hand.
Yes.
Symbol of resurrection, and they took it out the picture.
They took it out the picture, exactly. And again, see, that just shows us the fact that they don't want us to be conscious of the fact that the ritual of the phallus ceremonially was practiced throughout all antiquity. It was it was an upful and righteous thing, and they have taken it and made it negative.
Yeah, made it negative. And have us comparing ourselves with other people. You remember the days we were in high school about how big is this, versus how big is that, and all of this, and I'm saying, that was really ridiculous.
They were able to build homes and move up in the high echelon of what this society offered.
Yes, sir.
Because when they said, what do you people want? In their response, the things that the people have is what was given.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And a lot of us are still saying, well, we didn't want that. We wanted this. We wanted more. We wanted more. So if you don't mind, and so if we have to come right back to the face of history as it was so written, then we will speak directly in the face of history.
Yes.
But see, I don't think what needed to be gotten had you know. What we actually needed, all of that information and what we were supposed to been doing hadn't come together.
Because everyone would have to
you
be
know,
shallow there.
To fulfill it. Because we didn't need materialism. Materialism is destruction.
So the spiritual set down became a material looting. But we have material things. That's not what we want. We want spiritual connection. And it's kind of like to have taken. Well, she'll probably move the camera anyway.
She's gonna be. You're already gonna be a star. I can see that already.
She is.
She
got star qualities.
Yes.
This is her doing her first performance. I don't know if you got the chance to see this.
Oh, you were singing, Michaela. That is so good.
She had a standing ovation.
Wow.
Had a crowd of how many thousands?
You gonna replace Aretha, huh?
Well,
Who's your favorite singer? Who's your favorite singer? You got a favorite singer, Michaela?
I don't know who I like.
She don't know.
You're just gonna be yourself, right? That's what it is. Only one Michaela, that's you.
Yeah.
You're gonna be
only
the star.
one.
The only one. When is her birthday?
February 22nd.
Oh, yes. You know who was born in February? Mrs. Rosa Parks. The lady sat with Dr. King.
Miss Rosa Parks.
I was with her this past February. She's so nice, beautiful person.
Yes.
Your birthday is March?
January the
18th.
You're January 18th? You know whose birthday is? It comes after your birthday? Jackie Robinson, January 19th, 1919. He's a buddy of mine. Yeah, Jackie Robinson, the baseball player.
Is he dead?
Yeah, he died, it must have been maybe about 8 or 9 years, or maybe 10 years ago. He just had too much pressure on him. All the things people call him, all the insults, too much. Called him high blood pressure and kicked off diabetes in his body. He died.
Yeah, because you know when you get high blood pressure and the medicine will give you
Yeah.
diabetes.
Yeah.
You need to be careful.
Can you imagine taking the weight of 10 million people on his shoulders? When they had him out there, you get a chance to see the story about Jackie Robinson. They did all kinds of nasty things to him. And Mr. Branch Rickey, the manager, told him, Jackie, you want to because you can't fight back. You can't curse them back. You have to sit there. So for 3 or 4 years, he took all those insults. People put black cats out in front of him when he got on the baseball field. They would call him all kinds of names. Right? Nigger written on the walls. You know, we're going to kill you, all this kind of stuff. You know, you can imagine what his wife was going through. It threatened his wife and his family. And then he lost his son. As a result, his son was a Vietnam vet. And people kept trying to compare his son to him. And his son just wanted to lead a regular life. And his son happened to get involved with the herb when he was in Vietnam.
Okay, yeah.
And like many Vietnam veterans, he came back home to a country which put them down.
Turn it back.
You know, because turned their backs on them. They had nothing to do with being soldiers. They were sent there.
Is he still living?
No, his son died about 12 years ago in an automobile accident. And about a year or two after that, Jackie Robinson died because that was his only son. And he tried to help his son. And the newspapers wrote some nasty things about his son. And his son really needed help. Like many men in Vietnam, he was stressed out. Well, he had seen too much killing. And they couldn't handle it. You know, we're not taught to kill. Killing is not natural for us. And particularly our people. So when many of our soldiers went to Vietnam, they were taught to kill.
Was you a kid when that happened, 1919?
No, I wasn't born then.
No,
My father was born in that year. How old were you?
No.
He told you about it?
Yeah.
Jackie Robinson.
He asked you, was you a kid when
Oh,
what happened?
no.
Vietnam?
Oh, in Vietnam, yeah, I was a kid. I wasn't a kid in Vietnam. I was about 23, 24. I was supposed to go to Vietnam. I was in the NT at the ROTC, Air Force ROTC.
Okay, remember that, ROTC,
Yeah.
Air Force.
Yeah, if you go in any branch, go in the Air Force. Because you probably fly the flying saucers. Or if they exist.
See, I have a brother in the Air Force, him and his wife
do?
in Texas.
How does he like it?
He's made it a career.
Yeah, I would have made it a career too, but now it's hard because
It is.
they turn some people down. No benefits.
Well, it's just hard anyway.
Yeah,
The
this is
style of life and what's demanded of
Yeah.
you know, it's too much.
Oh, you must give your heart and your soul to the military.
So it's amazing, you know, how the videos you saw the night Valerie shot those,
You
and
did. You shot those.
I think,
yeah, it was all your stuff, you know, all the stuff.
I shoot a little video.
I'm looking at you. I can't get over this. I see my sister in front of me.
It's,
You know, yeah. Tell your mother when she made a child, you know, she made it a replica of herself.
You know, I have a little brother too.
You do? What's his name?
His name is Edward.
How old is he?
He's 19.
Is he in Greensboro?
No, he lives down by Fairmont, North Carolina.
I would love to meet him one day.
Yeah.
Is he as tall as you or is he tall?
He's tall.
Yeah.
I thought I would be taller.
Yeah.
Cause my mother.
How old are you?
I never
Michaela,
tell.
I love you.
I'm never telling Kayla my age.
Michaela, you put us on the spot. Ladies don't tell their ages. But I tell mine, I tell everybody I'm going 120 So they won't. So they will say, "Oh yes, we understand." He acts like that too.
So no, you're thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah.
Morgan, I know Morgan wants to get his questions
Yeah,
answered.
Morgan. Yes, please ask me the questions, Morgan. These are beautiful. These are beautiful
And you found out
layouts.
I didn't get his
Reverend
name.
Dr. Leon Sullivan was the founder of OIC throughout America.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went there in '68 to work from New Bedford, Massachusetts. When I finished A&T in 1963 here in Greensboro, North Carolina, I couldn't get a job. I was what you call white ball. They call it black ball. Not even my own people who would help me get a job here.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of ironic. You ask yourself, well, I was qualified, had the grades, had the honors, rode a three-piece suit with the briefcase, IBMer, but someone told me it's because you rocked the boat. I said, I don't understand. He said, well, because you were a troublemaker. You and David Richmond and Frank McCain and Joseph McNeil went against the order of Southern aristocracy and racism. So even the people who look like you, the professors at the colleges and the teachers at the schools, they're not going to hire you because their decisions that they make are controlled by the white school board. See? So I couldn't get a job in the state of North Carolina that I wanted, and so I wrote Dear Uncle Sam and sent my applications in, and I wound up getting a job with the Job Corps at that time in 1965 in New Bedford, Massachusetts. And I worked for Rodman Job Corps Center from 1965 to 1968 as a business instructor and a counselor with about 600 young men who would drop outside of school to help them gain the knowledge of skills and a culture so they could become employable and live a good life. When that closed in 1968, I went to become a part of the original staff for the Opportunities Industrialization Center in Boston, founded by Reverend Dr. Leon Sullivan. And from 72 to 75, I worked as a teacher at the Boston Area Construction Program, which was sponsored by the AFL-CIO labor unions. And we taught minorities and others to become skilled craftsmen, and we put them in jobs as apprentices.
It's wonderful.
Yes, it was a wonderful experience.
It was?
Until, yeah, it was, until the health problem I gained my freshman year at A&T as a result of the stress of the movement, the heavy coursework, 25 hours in architecture engineering.
Oh, goodness.
All of that came down upon me. And I broke out with what was called psoriasis. It's a psychosomatic disorder. Psych meaning mind.
Yes.
Brother Psyche, the mind. And
Representing.
it wasn't him who did it. It was like too much stress in the civil rights movement and work in school. And somatic means nervous system.
Yeah.
So the stress of it all, the threats on our lives, trying to run a movement with thousands of students involved, was too much for an 18-year-old. And I just didn't know what
You
it
were
was.
just 18 years old when you did that?
We were all 18. Joseph McNeil was 17. He was my roommate. He was a genius. Well, all of us had genius, but he was the IQ of Einstein. He was one of the 4 students at A&T at that time who received a 4-year scholarship to go to A&T. He was from Wilmington, North Carolina, from Williston High School. Frank McCain was an honor student from Washington, D.C. David Richmond was an honor student from Della High School. With myself.
Oh, you both of you are from Greensboro.
And at that time, integration really was not a foremost on the front burners of the American social scene.
No.
You remember that, Morgan? Now, this is something that how things are now, where you could go to school with other people and have white teachers and black teachers and Latino instructors. That wasn't happening at the time when he and Mr. Richmond and the other gentlemen had their made their decisions to sit in at the lunch counters at Woolworths.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. Say hi.
Hi, my name is Morgan.
I'm here.
I'm here as Mr.
Jibrell Kazan, also known as Ezel Blair Jr. And Easy, they call me Easy also.
Okay, now
All right.
stop it.
He's one of the students that sat in Woolworth lunch counter in 60. You and your fellow friends sit in the Woolworth lunch counter.
My friends, Joseph McNeil, David Richmond, and Frank McCain and I were freshman students at A&T College, North Carolina A&T College in Greensboro, North Carolina. And we were all engineering and mathematics students. So every night in the dormitory, we would have what they call bull sessions, where we talked about things that we liked and didn't like. And we talked about being freshmen in college and the problems that freshmen had with upperclassmen. We talked about equal rights in America. And the subject always ended with the question, what could we do to remove racism from our lives as people of color at that time? They called us Negroes and colored people. Now they say African Americans. Some say Nubian Hebrew people. Others say Indians. Some say African, Eurasian Americans. But whatever they describe us, we were considered to be second-class citizens in America. So we decided we wanted to do something to end racial discrimination. But we couldn't figure out what. So, as we were having a discussion in my room one night in Scott Hall, room 2128, the idea was thrown out by Joseph, what could we do? And the answer was, maybe we could have a boycott, meaning don't buy where you don't get served equally, you see, of those restaurants and stores in Greensboro that refused to serve us equally. Now the lunch counter was chosen because, and Woolworths was chosen because every day Woolworths was a 5 and dime store. In other words, you could go in there with 10 cents and get a bag of popcorn. 5 cents, get a giant Baby Ruth candy bar. That was 1959, you see. You could walk in Cress's and Woolworths, which was another 5 and dime store, and your mother could buy a brand new dress for $2. You could get a pair of shoes for $1.50.
Those were the days.
And because many of us didn't have much money, Woolworths and Cress's was like a family store. That's the way Sears and Roebuck's used to be.
Mm-hmm.
You can find anything you wanted in Kresge's. Everything from clothes to furniture. You know, to a new washing machine, probably cost you about $25. You know? But that's why we chose Woolworth's lunch counter. Because Woolworth's was national. And we were thinking, and we spent a lot of money there.
How much was the food?
That's all right. What did she say?
How much was the food?
Oh, you can buy a hot dog for 10 cents. French fries for a nickel. You could buy a tall soda for like about 5 cents. Yeah. Apple pie for about 15 cents with ice cream on it. Can you imagine? You know, those were the days
Those
too.
were the days.
You know? And so we decided we wanted to do something, and the lunch counter was right there in front of us. And so Joseph and David and Frank McCain decided, along with myself, and I was known as Ezel Blair Jr., to look into the possibility of maybe having a sit-down strike or something like that. We call it a sit-down strike. But to make matters, to speed up matters, in Christmas of 1959, Joseph McNeil came home from New York. He had a visit with his mother and his father, you see. And he tried to get something to eat at the local Greyhound bus station downtown in Greensboro. And it was about 11:30, and he asked for a hot dog or hamburger with french fries and a Coke. And they said, Negro, you know we don't serve people here. He says, I'm hungry. And they wouldn't serve him. So he angrily got up from the seat, left the Greyhound bus station, and walked all the way downtown back to our dormitory room. And he came into the dormitory room at night, it was on a Sunday night, slammed the door, and I'm there trying to do my homework. He says, "Wake up, Junior Blair." I said, "Oh man, what's going on now?" He said, "You know what happened to me?" And he told me the story. I said, "Joe, what can we do?" He said, "Man, we got to act, man. We've been talking about something like this for a long time, but we've got to act." And so I said, "What do you think we can do?" So we talked to Joe and Frank and David, the four of us, and we decided we were going to have a sit-in strike. Now the idea was we would go into the store, purchase articles at the merchandise counter, like I needed a comb and a brush. I think I got toothpaste. Do I still have my teeth in here? Toothpaste and a toothbrush. Somebody else ordered a comb and a brush. Somebody else ordered an ink pen. Then we kept the receipts, and we decided we would move from the merchandising counter and gradually take seats with the receipts in our hand at the all Caucasian or white lunch counter. That was the strategy. Now, we didn't tell anybody, but Joseph needed a job. So I told Joseph, "Why don't you see this guy named Ralph Johns?" He was an Arab American on Market Street. If you needed a job. Huh?
Ralph Johns.
Ralph Johns. He was an actor in Hollywood.
And had all his Hollywood pictures in the store. He sold clothes, and black people bought their cool clothes from him. You needed cool clothes, party clothes, and your tuxedos, you could get them from Ralph.
He had the Hollywood style. Huh?
Yeah. Ralph Johns came from New Jersey originally. He was a Marionite, meaning he belonged to the Lebanese branch of the Catholic Church. And he was always talking about Jesus loved you and you're my cousin. He was very fair. I said, "This is a strange white man."
He called everyone cousin.
He called everyone cousin because he knew that we were his cousins and he was related to us in Africa, in Egypt, in Arabia, you see, in Jerusalem. We were the original Hebrews, you know, but he couldn't tell us that. But he called us cousin. And he was on the board of the local National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. He was one of the trustees, along with my father, Ethel Blair Sr., and Dr. George Simpkins. And Ralph Johns had been trying for 10 years, from 1949 until 1959, to find some young people, Bennett College students, A&T students, to go down and have a test case at the lunch counter. But he never told me that. This is for the record. Didn't know anything about it. He used to come to my house for supper in the colored neighborhood in Warnersville. White people didn't come to colored people's house for supper. He was the original man who came to dinner. Guess who's coming to dinner? Ralph Johns was very much loved by the people in the community. But many of the colored people, or the Negroes at that time, or the African Americans they call them, thought he was a crazy white man. They thought he was too radical, even for the NAACP.
Yes, his wild clothing, because he dressed flamboyant.
Oh, you knew him? You remember him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Johns, though, was an actor from Hollywood. He was one of the original Arabs to apply for the role, the Sheikh of Araby, which Rudolph Valentino, an Italian, got. So Ralph was kind of upset by this. And he came to Greensboro. He left Hollywood. He's back in Hollywood now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he left here a couple of years ago, moved back here. But Mr. Johns, Joseph went to see Mr. Johns for a job and told him about our idea. And Mr. Johns claimed that he told Joseph about the idea. I don't know anything about it. That's between him and Joseph McNeil. Hope you feel better. Okay. So this is what happened. And so we told Ralph about it. And finally we decided on Sunday, January 31st, 1960, in our dormitory room, that we were going to go down the next day and sit in a Woolworth lunch counter. See? So the next day, on Monday, February 1st, 1960, which, by the way, is called National Freedom Day. We didn't know it was called National Freedom Day. You see, 100 years ago, or 125 years ago, if I can be correct, in 1865, on January the 31st, 1865, the Congress of the United States passed or approved the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment to the Constitution ends all slavery legally. It wasn't in 1863 when President Lincoln approved the Emancipation Proclamation. That didn't have no weight. That was just a trick to get people to revolt and get killed on as slaves, you see. They were telling people we were free, and the government said, no, you're not. And so the white people were shooting us down like flies. But on January 31st, 1865, the United States Congress they approved the passage of the 13th Amendment to end all slavery legally in America. The next day, on February 1st, 1865, Abraham Lincoln had a presidential proclamation. He proclaimed, as of this day, February 1st, 1865, it will be called National Freedom Day. But most people who are Americans have forgotten it. This is the real day to start our, quote, Black History Month with. National Freedom Day, February 1st. We got a sign, but we didn't know this. So on Sunday night, January 31st, 1960, we met in our dormitory room. Joseph came in the room, slammed the door. All right, tomorrow we're going down. I said, oh no, Joe, going where? He says, we're going to Woolworth's, man. We're going to sit in. I said, I don't know, man, because, you know, I had 25 hours in engineering. My nerves were not good. And Franklin McCain was in the room. He's like 6'4", weighed about 200-some pounds. David Richardson was in there, who was about 135 pounds. They were all bigger than me. I only weighed 110 pounds, bring it whack. So they said, we're going to put a vote. So Joseph looks at Frank McCain, looks at Dave Richmond and say, hey, Dave, are you chicken? Dave said, no, man, I'm not chicken. David comes from East White Oak in Greensboro, right? So Dave looked at Frank McCain, him and Joe looked at Frank and said, Papa Bear, Big Daddy Kane, original one. Are you chicken? Of course, Frank was tall. He says, no, I'm not chicken. They look at me, I'm sitting on the desk, right? Hey, Easy, are you chicken? Yeah, man, I'm chicken. Listen, I gotta go to the toilet, you know? I don't think I can do this. They said, you're not getting away, man. We're gonna put this to a vote. So they voted. All in favor say aye. Joe, David, and Frank raised their hand. Aye. They looked at me. I said, I don't know. I don't think so. I said, you know, I got an exam tomorrow. I said, if I flunk out of school, my parents are going to put me out of school. So they voted 3-1 in room 2128, Scott Hall. And the next day we went down to Woolworth's. I didn't sleep a wink at all that night. Boy, I was restless. The song says I was tossing, I was turning, and I got up 2 or 3 times to go to the bathroom. I was scared. Yeah. Thinking about all the things that could happen to us. Now, some people said they were brave. No, I was scared. It's always good to have a little fear in you, you know. To go around saying you're not afraid of anything, that's pretty strong. I was a human being. I was 18 years old. I had a brown skin like you did, golden brown like you did. And I thought about getting beat up by a policeman, being put in the paddy wagon, which I never was, meaning the police car, getting beat up on the way to jail, handcuffed, thrown in the cell, and nobody would ever know where I was the next day, the next hour. I prayed hard that night. Lord, don't let them get me. Let them get the other guy. Yeah, I was human. To say I was not afraid, that's not true. So the next day, we left the campus around 2:30 and went to Ralph John's store on our way downtown, East Market Street, going toward Elm Street. We stopped in Ralph's store, and Ralph was like our coach. And Ralph said, you guys are going to do it, huh? We said, yeah. And then he talked to Dorothy Harris. who was his saleswoman there. She's another African American woman. She said, Dorothy, I don't believe these guys are gonna do it. And we said, yeah, we're gonna do it. So Ralph gave us each some money. And he looked at me, he says, I'm number one. And he looked at me, he said, Junior, named after Junior Blair, he said, you're number two. I said, number two? How did he get to be number one? And how come I'm number two? He says, I was scratching my head and said, what does this guy have to do with this? See, this is the first time I met Ralph Johns about the sit-in idea, right? Joe had talked with Ralph, I guess. So he said, I'm going to call up Joe Spivey, who was a reporter for the Greensboro Daily News.
I've seen his name before. He's no longer a reporter.
Yeah, well, it's a she. Joe Spivey was like a liberal reporter. They call her nigger lover along with Ralph, you see. So Joe Spivey was not there, but she sent a reporter there. I think his name may have been Isom. He was the one who took the picture of us coming out of Woolworths on Monday, February 1st. That picture's around the world. He's relying on his laurels. That's his money retirement for the rest of his life. That picture now costs about,
I'm sure it was.
That picture's copyrighted. It costs maybe about $60 now. It may be $100. I don't even have a copy of that picture. So we walked in the eastern door of Elm Street to Woolworths, and we went toward the lunch counter. The merchandising counter. We purchased articles at the table, at the merchandising counter. Then we kept our receipts and walked over to the lunch counter. And the waitress asked us. We sat down slowly. I think Frank was on the end. David was next to him. Joe was next. I was next to David, and Joseph was on the end. And the lady said, "What do you boys want?" Caucasian waitress. We said, "We'd like to be served, please." She said, "You know, we don't serve colored people here. So why don't you get up and leave?" And we said very politely, "Thank you, ma'am. We'd rather sit here." Then she called the African-American woman who looked like my aunt. I know this lady looked tough when she came out. We had prepared ourselves to be nonviolent or practice the ideas of nonviolent insistence. To be nonviolent like Dr. Martin Luther King and Mrs. Rosa Parks and Reverend Ralph Abernathy. To practice the philosophy of nonviolence, not to hit anyone if we are attacked. But like Jesus Christ and Mahatma Gandhi, see? But we insisted on equal rights, so we call it nonviolent insistence. So she called this African-American woman over, and this lady said, "What do you boys want?" And we said, "We'd like to be served, please." They said, "You know, we don't serve Negroes or colored people here. You know, they don't serve our people here. Why don't you boys get on up and go back to A&T College or go back to the school?" She could tell we were students because Frank had his Air Force uniform on, right? When you get the book Eyes on the Prize, you'll see the picture of us on page 128. So we said, "We'd like to stay here, ma'am." So she said, "You know what? It's people like you that make our race look bad." Oh, that was kind of hurt us a little bit, you know. But we know she was under pressure. She was working, and that was her job. And we didn't want to get nasty with anyone because that was not our nature. So we understood. She was working here, and we treated her nicely, you know. Then the manager came out, Mr. Harris. He said, "What do you boys want?" He was a Caucasian man. And we said, "We'd like to be served, please." And one of us said, "I like a hot dog." Somebody else said, "I want a hamburger." Someone said, "I want a Coke. Give me some French fries over there. Put loaves of mustard on it." I wanted pie a la mode, apple pie with vanilla ice cream. I had a sweet tooth. He said, "You know we don't serve colored people here, or Negroes. Why don't you boys get up and leave?" We said, "Thank you, sir. We were ready to sit here." Meanwhile, there was this Caucasian man sitting beside us. The other Caucasian people had ordered their food, right, and left the restaurant. He didn't leave. You know what he did? He ate everybody else's food and was ready for more. Free meals. There was about 3 or 4 meals on the table. He said, boy, you boys need to come here every day. And he looked at him, he says, I don't care what nobody say. He said, I fought in the war. He was a veteran of of the Korean War. He said, the colored soldiers were the best fighting men around, he said. I don't care what nobody say. He said, if they're good enough to fight and die for this country, they're good enough to sit beside me. You know what? In 1990, he was there down at Woolworths when we had our 30th reunion. I don't know what the man's name is, but I gave him a big hug. I got his picture on videotape. Wherever he is, may the good Lord bless him. See, there were some good people around. Some of them too scared to speak up. It was always like that. Some of them call themselves good Christians or Jews. Some were good Arabs. But the majority of the people were too scared to do what was right. So, the few that did, I said, God bless them. So, he called the policeman in. The manager did. Policeman came and walked around behind us, beating his nightstick in his hand. He's buzzing with the manager, and they were pointing over there and said, you see over there? And so the policeman, guess what he did? He threw his hands up in the air and scratched his head. I don't know what to do. He walked out. Meanwhile, there were people gathering outside the front door of Woolworths. Some of our friends, we said, hey, come on in. Come on in. Margaret Garrett was one of them. And what's her name? Carolyn Craven, who now works for the Chancellor's office at A&T College. She's the secretary, Mrs. Carolyn Caldwell. That's her name. They said, oh no, we're not coming in. So, the policeman left. Then there were two old ladies, looked like they could have been nuns or Quakers, dressed very conservative in dark blue or brown with white hair, like the lady who has the beef commercial, Who's Got the Beef. They walked over and said, boys, stand up for your rights. We turned around, we're so surprised. They said, what you're doing is right. Say, God bless you. We support you. I said, they were the guardian angels, all right. But we learned that day a very valuable lesson. You can't judge a book by looking at the cover. We may look like this, unfortunately, but we may not always think alike. You can't say they're good because they look like you, or they're bad because they don't look like you. We have some good people supporting us that day. And I said, wow, that's a good turnabout, because the lady at the lunch counter told us it was people like us who embarrass our race. And then the Caucasian ladies behind us said they supported us. What a day, history lesson this was. And so they said, we're closing the stores around 4:30. And we walked out of the store. The South entrance on Sycamore Street. The sun hit us in the eyes, blinding me. I think Mr. Jack Odom was there. I think that's his name. He said, boys, I don't have too much time. I have to write a story. First thing he said, who sent you? Well, I want you to know, old Big Mouth here, 105 pounds, I was so nervous. I could feel water running down my arms. I was sitting at the lunch counter. I thought that I had urinated in my pants. I was real nervous. So the light shining in my eyes blinded me. I said, He said, who sent you? I said, God sent us. And the other guys looked, Joe, David, and Frank looked at me like, what you say? Like, you know, man, are you kidding? And I said, I was so stunned, it was unrehearsed. He said, now boys, I don't have too much time. And he said, who sent you? And we all looked at each other again. And we said, God sent us. The reporter said, now listen, did the president of the college send you? Did the NAACP send you, meaning National Association for the Advancement of Colored People? We said, no. We smiled at him. God sent us. He said, I can't print that. In other words, in the language of the German people, God means good. See? And so we didn't know that. And we told him in simple language the power in their language, so everybody could know who it was that sent us. And he wrote the story. He said, are you coming back? We told them, yeah, we're coming back tomorrow, which was Tuesday, February the 2nd. But we didn't have any organization or anything like that. But we went on faith, you see. Faith that moves mountains. You ever heard that idea? If you have the faith in the grain of a mustard seed, you can say to that mountain, racism at the lunch counter, move, and it will move. But you got to have the faith, and you got to act on it. And believe on yourself. And try. I say, what? Have faith, believe in yourself, try, act on it. And the only thing you can do is not succeed. If you don't succeed, try again. That's what we did. Every day we came back at 10:30 in the morning or 1:30 in the morning. This went on a week. Finally, Saturday, February 6, 1960, we had a meeting with the students of A&T College in the auditorium over there, Harrison Auditorium, around 6 o'clock. It was our first time meeting with them. We put it to a vote. And of course, when we went downtown to Woolworths that day on Saturday, there was a bomb threat at Woolworths in Crescent. So they closed the store. And about 1,000 students chanted and came back to the campus. And that's why we had to have the meeting. And earlier that morning, February the 6th, the students voted to support us. But that evening, I had to get out on the stage and ask them to vote a truce to give the businessmen downtown a chance to negotiate. We got tricked. They were in a 2-week cooling off period. They stretched it out to April the 1st, April Fool's Day, 1960. So we lost a lot of our support, and that's when we had to call on the students at Dudley High School, Bill Thomas and the rest of the students there. And they helped keep the movement going. And finally, with the help of the adults, the elders, both Caucasian